everybody, and today I'd like to tell you about a little history of the world. Chapter 10, the Enlightened One and His Land. So in this one we visit India. So they spoke a language similar to the Persians, Greeks, and the Romans and the Teutons. For example, father. In Indian, it's called Pita. In Greek, it's called pater. In Latin, it's called pater. And since both Indian and Europeans speak these languages, so they called themselves the Indo-European family of languages. So even though they live far apart, they were also distant relatives. So, for example, like the English people could be distant relatives of Indian people. 2. Classes or castes. So in India, there were different castes. For example, there were warriors and farmers and craftsmen and others. Though if you were a warrior, then you needed to stay a warrior. You couldn't change castes. And if you were a farmer, you needed to remain a farmer. You couldn't, even if you're born like that, you couldn't switch. And that's the same for every other caste. Someone who's a number of one caste can marry a girl from another. For example, if one was let's say a farmer and the other was a craftsman, they couldn't marry. And they couldn't even share a meal with another member of another caste. And at the top of the castes were the priests. They had to perform lots of sacrifices for the gods and learn all the chants off by heart. And for more than 1,000 years, and all of them had to be unchanged until someone eventually wrote all the texts down on paper. A tiny part of the population was excluded, though, from any caste. They were the parishes, also known as the untouchables, because they were at the bottom and had to do the dirtiest and filthiest work. They weren't allowed to fetch water from the same stream the other Indians got water from, and they also had to they weren't even allowed to let their shadow touch another person's shadow. Even that was considered defilling. 3. Gautama was the Buddha, and he grew up in Eastern wealth, and he had 3 palaces. One was a summer one was a rainy one, and one was a winter one. And he went and his father his father didn't let him leave his palaces, and anyone who was sick and unhappy Gautama couldn't see the Buddha. But one day he summoned his carriage to go out, and when he went there, he found an old man. But he saw an old man near a street, and the driver was forced to explain. When Gautama, the Buddha, questioned it, his driver was forced to explain that he was actually an old man who's bent of age. And pondering deeply about this, he went home. And on the second occasion, he saw someone that was sick, and this, pondering even more deeply, he went home to his wife and his small son. But on the third occasion, he saw a dead man near the street. So then he decided he wouldn't go home. So he went to to the Indian forest, and he prayed for a while, and then he went back, and then he despite all of his elders and his father's decisions, he shaved his head, even though he was really healthy, and he shaved his head bald and wore coarse robes, So, and then he went to the forest to stink. And when so he studied for so he went there for 6 years without and he did it without breathing, or as little as he could, and eating as little as he could. So then he but then eventually one night he realized, trying to find the inner peace. But then he started eating again, and because he realized he couldn't find any peace inside him, inner peace. So he went to he started eating again, and the other hermits who formerly admired him now despised him, but he took no heed. So he began eating as normal, and because he and one night after when he was praying, he discovered that actually he was he found a way. So the way was that if for example you want a book or a toy, there's two things you can do. One is you try your best to get it, or two, you can stop wanting it. So the Buddha said either way, if you succeed, you'll be happy. So he said let happiness take over greed. And so, but you might be asking, but people can't help wanting these. But to the Buddha, it wasn't like that. He said that you could stop wanting things, and soon he found lots of like-minded people, and he changed a lot, and that was very good. And that's all for today. Bye bye.